Honourable Minister. We also have our Deputy Minister of Public Enterprises with us this morning, the Chair of NBI, and ladies and gentlemen, I realise fully that I stand between you and breakfast, so I'll try and not be too long. It is certainly a pleasure for me to talk about the UN Global Compact, because as Futhi has said, Eskom goes back to the beginning of the Compact. Our participation has been very important to us as a company. And I also like to share with you our experiences around the Global Compact, and I'll talk a little bit about the work that we're doing with the UN Secretary General around sustainable electricity or sustainable energy access for all, which is an example of some of the initiatives that has come out of the Compact. These days, more than 8,700 organizations from 130 countries which are signatory to the UN Global Compact. That is the extent of this network. The Compact was launched, as Futhi has said, almost exactly 12 years ago, 26th of July 2000. And it was originally endorsed by 38 organizations around the world. At that time, Eskom was one of those 38 organizations. It was South Africa's only company to sign up, and it was one of a handful of companies globally that have done that, and also companies from emerging markets. At the time, we were certainly in good company, as we are today. Some of the multinationals at that time were included in the 38 was Volvo, Royal Dutch Shell, Rio Tinto, and Deutsche Bank, and they were all part of the original list. We have, over these years, derived significant benefit from our participation in terms of the Global Compact, as well as our peer group of companies who has been willing to make a public commitment about good corporate citizenship. Today, we certainly take it for granted the fact that companies must be good corporate citizens. But that was not the case 12 years ago. Sustainability was quite a new concept at the time, and the idea that business should not just focus on making profits in the short term, but it must also look after our environment and our society was quite difficult, and it was quite a shift for businesses to adopt that in order to ensure that we could prosper into the long term. It is important that we remind ourselves that the UN Global Compact is not just about responding to environmental issues, such as climate change. It was, and currently today, it's still all about corporate citizenship in the broad sense. Its 10 principles commits us to a set of core values in the areas of human rights, labor, the environment, and, as Futhi has dealt with, anti-corruption. If we look at these principles, they don't seem hard to embrace. For example, supporting human rights and upholding freedom of association and the elimination of discrimination and working against corruption in all of these forms. In theory, it is easy to sign up to the Compact, but in practice, it takes a significant amount of vigilance. It takes a lot of hard work to make sure that these principles are put into effect in the way we manage our businesses. It also requires an investment of time and effort to make sure that we monitor the implementation and our performance against these principles. This compact is completely voluntary, but all of us that have endorsed the Global Compact do commit to holding ourselves accountable, because we have to report each year on our progress and the progress that we've made. And to quote the United Nations' own description of how it works, and I quote, "The UN Global Compact is more like a guide dog than a watchdog," close quote. I can testify to you that certainly this is a guide dog worth having. First of all, it has had direct spin-off in the way we manage risk within our organization. And for the past 12 years since we have endorsed the Compact, we have monitored our performance in all those matrices and integrated in the way we manage Eskom. But the compact also provides us a global yardstick against which we can measure ourselves. And not only ourselves, but also our suppliers. It requires that our contractors also adhere to the fundamental principles on human rights, labor relations, anti-corruption, safety, and the environment. We have also built these principles into the way we report to our stakeholders. Eskom has been one of South Africa's earliest companies to adopt what we know today as integrated reporting. We published our first sustainability report in 2000, and since 2004 have been doing an integrated report that includes in a single document both our financial and our sustainability report, both including environmental, safety, health, and our socioeconomic performance as a company. We have a very clear objective to be a leader as far as this is concerned, and that has been testified by the recent awards that Eskom has received, and particularly last few weeks that we've received Investment Analyst Society Award for the best reporting in our sector, the first time in South Africa that a non-listed company has won this award, and that has been followed up by also winning the Best Reporting Award for state-owned companies. The second benefit from our signing the UN Global Compact is that increasingly investors and rating agencies are looking at companies and their commitment to good governance, to corporate responsibility, and to sustainable development. The Global Compact provides an internationally recognized mechanism for companies such as Eskom, given the fact that we approach both local and international markets to demonstrate this commitment. A third benefit is that it provided great opportunities for learning for ourselves, as well as networking and partnerships for us on a global stage. Dialogue and partnerships are very essential part of the Global Compact, which is an international forum to share experiences and best practices. And we have, over the years, been involved in UN initiatives, for example, empowering women, and initiatives such as Caring for Climate and the CEO Water Mandate that have provided excellent platforms for collective action. And since 2010, Eskom has also now been identified as one of the lead companies within the UN Global Compact. If I turn very briefly to the UN efforts around sustainable electricity for all, as we have seen, it is very important for countries, and particularly companies in developing countries, to make sure that we engage within global forums. And through the UN Global Compact, we have found that we can bring a developing country perspective to these global debates. We've seen that played out in COP17. We've seen that recently played out at Rio+20. But for us as Eskom, we have more directly been involved in the global partnership in sustainable energy access for all, which is led personally by the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. We have a very clear climate change strategy as a country, which aims that as we move forward, we move towards a cleaner energy future. That will ensure that we diversify our energy mix within the country, make sure that we reduce our water use, and that we produce particularly our outputs with lower carbon footprints. We've also made within our country energy efficiency a priority. We most probably, in global terms, run one of the world's largest energy efficiency programs. We are spending billions of rands to incentivize customers, and over the last 5 years have saved equivalent to close to a power station worth of electricity through energy efficiency measures. However, we believe that cleaner energy is just one of the imperatives for South Africa and also for Africa. Security of supply and affordable supply of electricity, and it's just as important. But we also know that Africa is still today mainly a dark continent, and therefore it's crucial for our country and for our continent that access to electricity for all is achieved. We in our country have a particular success story in that prior to 1991, we had less than a third of our people having access to electricity. Today, that's over 80%. And so our program around electricity for all must continue, and must continue at speed. So globally, it's been recognized that in recent years, we can't just look at climate change without looking at the issues of energy poverty and access to electricity. And coming from Africa, it is a particularly important issue and perspective we raised in international debates. If we look at Africa, the problem is a significant one. The Secretary General's office has estimated that 1.3 billion people have no access to electricity in the world, and 40% of those are in sub-Saharan Africa. This is a huge challenge, and this is one that the UN has recognized, and therefore this year has been declared as the International Year for Sustainable Electricity for All. I serve on the UN High-Level Panel of the Secretary General, and it's set out three objectives. Firstly, to facilitate global access to modern energy systems. Secondly, to improve the rate of energy efficiency and to double that, and to double the share of renewables in global energy, all of this to be achieved by 2030. And through the Global Compact, we have been working with many companies globally to actually put together a plan as utilities, electrical utilities globally, to start addressing the energy access issue. As a conclusion for Eskom, our participation in the UN Global Compact and the range of other partnerships that we've had through the UN has proved extremely valuable for us. It is not only that our organization has benefited, but also we believe that being part of this initiative has helped us shape the global agenda, and particularly from a developing country perspective, in terms of the issues that affect our country and our continent. So we believe that there's much to be gained in endorsing the Global Compact, and I would certainly urge all South African companies to support MBI and sign up to the Compact. And government has set, and our minister has set specific leadership, as is done in many other areas. And last week we've had all 8 state-owned companies that fall under the Department of Public Enterprises, and I'm sure the minister is working hard to get the rest of the SOEs in government to sign up to the Compact. And we as Eskom certainly welcome our colleagues on to the Compact. So I'd encourage you to join us on this journey. It can not only be good for you as a company, but it certainly will be good for our people because of the broader principles of the Compact. But this is also something that will be good for our country and for our continent. I thank you.